Welcome to Just a Bit Outside, presented by WaFd Bank. Join a best bank at wafdbank.com. I'm Michelle Ludtka, and we've got a great show for you this week, including a one-on-one with Seattle native and ESPN NFL reporter Lindsey Thiry, an all-new trivia segment, unheard sound from Russell Wilson and Jordan Morris. But to start everything off, let's have our experts weigh in on this week's hot topics from the sidelines. This is From the Sidelines. Of course, we have Q13 sports director Aaron Levine, and also joining us today, the one and only Strawberry from the Wake Up Show on KUBE 93, and the lovely, as always, Susannah Collins from MLSsoccer.com, a fabulous reporter and host there. And also, you've got a podcast going on over there, right?
I sure do, Michelle, with my girl Jillian Sakovits. It's called The Call Up, and it's bi-weekly. We put it out every Tuesday, and it's a lot of soccer talk, but a lot of fun stuff. You know, a lot of off the field kind of things. So good conversations.
We are all about all the fun here. So I'm really excited to get you guys on here today. Appreciate you joining us. We'll jump into the hot topics. And on the note of soccer, Strawberry, I don't know if a lot of people know this about you in Seattle. You're a diehard Sounders fan.
Huge Sounders fan. And when I start talking to soccer, when I start talking soccer to people, their eyes start glazing over because there's that, preconception of what soccer is. And I've brought 3 or 4 different people to Sounders games, and they are converts. I mean, it's the energy of the crowd. It's that amazing ECS cheering section. And I grew up playing soccer, so I have a love and an understanding for it. But the players are so special. That team is so special. I mean, they're so hot. You can't help but fall in love with the Sounders.
And speaking about how special they are, our very first hot topic today, 12th year in a row that the Sounders are back in the playoffs. The only other team in all of Major League sports across the board who have a longer run is the Pittsburgh Penguins in the NHL with 14 consecutive seasons. How incredible is it what Seattle is able to continue to do year after year?
Yeah, I think it's remarkable. I mean, when you talk about building a consistent contender, the Sounders are the gold standard here. I mean, it's the perfect example of what happens when you have an ownership group that truly cares and is invested in long-term and short-term success, both of them. Can we also talk about how important the relationship is between a general manager and a head coach? I mean, we talk so often in Seattle about Pete Carroll and John Schneider. We have to remember Garth Lagerwey and Brian Schmetzer, who really seem to work well together. It's always been the case, though, in Seattle, dating all the way back to Ziggy Schmid and Adrian Hanauer, and then Garth taking over with Ziggy Schmid, and now Garth and Brian. They do things the right way here, and I don't think they get enough credit for it.
It's I think Schmetzer is one of the more severely underrated coaches in MLS, and I don't know why. I mean, not only is this the 12th consecutive year that they're going to the playoffs, or they've been in 3 out of 4 MLS Cup finals. Like, the last 4 years, they have been in 3 MLS Cup finals, which is ridiculous. It's so hard to do. It's so hard to repeat that success. And so I tip my cap to Brian Schmetzer. I love that he's like a Seattle guy too. You know, he is just so Seattle through and through. It makes it even more, it makes the story even more awesome for MLS, you know?
You know what, since I have you experts here, a lot of people love to throw the word dynasty out when it comes to professional sports, basketball, football. The soccer teams normally don't get the phrase dynasty, but Susannah, Michelle, Aaron, Sounders, do they qualify with not only those 12 back-to-back seasons, but the last 3 out of 4? I think we're talking dynasty, yes?
Yes, 100%. Well, considering MLS is also only in its 25th go-around, I think that this 100% cements them in the dynasty category. We've had that debate several times amongst our staff at MLSsoccer.com, and I think we're all pretty much on the same page that the Seattle Sounders are certainly a dynasty.
Absolutely.
And if they're not a dynasty now, I mean, which we all agree they are, I mean, let's just keep it going. I mean, we're not looking to slow down anytime soon. We've got the playoffs starting in about a week from now. It's obviously a much different season this year. The teams only being able to play a handful of teams during the regular season after they got back from the bubble, and now we're on an international break, and it's a toss-up. But predictions for how you think this will all play out once playoffs get going next week.
I think we can all predict that we can expect the unexpected because, hey, guess what? It's 2020, people, and literally anything can happen. No, but in all seriousness, this season has been such a grind and an anomaly for players, for coaches, for fans. It feels like we've had like 5 ideations of the MLS season all compacted into one, and there's just a lot to deal with. And so I literally think that, like, you know, certainly we are going to be looking at teams like the Seattle Sounders, Toronto FC, sort of the perennial favorites. They are built for the sort of tournament success, but I don't think you can count out some of these other teams. I look at like Orlando City and the incredible season that they're having and the success that they were able to have in the MLS's back tournament. Philadelphia Union just won the Supporters Shield, their first trophy in club history. So I think more than ever, it's an open field for MLS. I certainly do think the Seattle Sounders are probably going to go far, but outside of that, it's kind of like anything can happen.
I'll jump in here, Susannah, and say, of all the teams out there, the last one as a Sounders fan that I wanted the Sounders to face in the first round of the playoffs was LAFC. They're not a 7 seed. I mean, you're talking about a team that was one of the most dominant in MLS history last year, even though they lost to Seattle in the playoffs. And really, the only reason they're a 7 seed here is because of injuries, and now they're healthy. I mean, they have the former Carlos Vela, who's a former MVP, coming back, and he's fully healthy now. I know Brian Schmetzer has his guys ready to play in these kinds of games, but I mean, I feel like it would be better to see these two teams in a rematch of the Western Conference Finals.
I said the same thing. I literally said the same thing. I'm like, wait, so soon? No. But also something to keep in mind, Aaron, too, though, is that LAFC could be without a bunch of guys for that matchup against Seattle because of international duty. Like if Diego Rossi isn't on that pitch, then that kind of changes things up a bit. So, and it's looking like Raul Ruidiaz is going to be available for Seattle, which is huge, absolutely huge. So I'm fully anticipating this to be another classic LAFC Seattle match. But yeah, kind of wish it was happening a little bit.
Can we bring up Raul Ruidiaz's hairstyle, by the way? Do you like the bleach?
Always.
Love it.
Always.
Love it.
I kind of think he can get away with whatever the heck he wants, you know? Like, as long as that man is scoring goals, like, you do you, Raul. We're good.
And let me shout him out for being such a great dad also. I don't know if you guys follow him on Instagram. Such a great dad. Takes every opportunity he can to post photos of his family. And, I mean, just salute the guy.
I see. On that note, I love that. I feel like there are so many wonderful guys on the Sounders. Like Nicholas Ladero also comes to mind. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I live for the kid family. And also Stephen Fry, his dog posts. Like, they're so great.
Wrinkle Wednesdays.
Wrinkle Wednesdays. I've actually invited Stephen Fry to the studio a number of times here at the radio station, but I always preface it by saying, bring your dogs in one day. Hey, you and your dogs should come in, because I love Steph, but I really want to hang out with his Shar-Pei. I really do.
Side note, I got really excited. This was back right after Sounders returned from the bubble. And I'm not going to say where I was, but I was driving my car, and I literally hit the brakes, did a U-turn, because I saw Stephen Fry out walking his dogs, and I had not seen Steph in like months, and like talked to him, and I like rolled down and was like, hey, Steph. I was way too eager. I think he was like, it's too early in the morning for this.
Oh, that's great.
Like, what's happening?
I love that.
Is that why he moved to Bainbridge Island?
Get away from Michelle? Yeah, probably.
I might have scared him away. But regardless, yes, wonderful team. So excited about these Sounders players. Love their social media posts. Got to keep them coming. And as we wrap things up, guys, not Sounders related, but still in the soccer realm, we got to talk about the incredible Megan Rapinoe. Not only did she release her book this week and is on her book tour and is just like the queen of the world. She's incredible. But she also called out Manchester United, telling them they were disgraceful for delaying an investment in their women's team. A really powerful message, I think, from a really powerful woman, not just in the soccer community, but really worldwide.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. The thing is, too, is that Megan Rapinoe has probably the biggest platform of any female athlete that we see today. She's the Ballon d'Or winner. I mean, she has legions of fans. And when she speaks, people listen. And take out the fact that, you know, call it disgraceful. Yeah, I do actually agree with her. I think that women's soccer has taken a back seat for far too long. But it takes people like Megan Rapinoe bringing attention to it for it to change. And so I think her calling them out is ultimately a really good thing, because when she talks, people listen and things start to happen.
Yeah, I love that about 2020 in itself. This has been such a year, an era of change, of people pointing their finger in the faces of the old guard who are for some reason still the gatekeepers of things and saying this isn't right. I mean, Megan Rapinoe took the knee in support of Colin Kaepernick against racial injustice and police brutality, and that created a whole wave. And she has a quote from the Glamour Awards where she said, use your privilege to lift others up. And she has been doing that with a lot of social justice causes. And I'm a huge fan of her, both on and off the field, and what she stands for and how she does use her privilege to lift others up.
Can I say that Manchester United is one of the wealthiest sports clubs in the entire world? Not England, not Europe. We're talking about the entire world. Everyone knows Man U. And the fact that they're in a situation like this, I think is pretty sad, because I mean, I feel like they should be setting the trend, not following it. And they're barely, following it because they're so far behind in investing in their women's team. And so from everything I'm hearing, Rapinoe is dead on in this situation. People wonder why women's pro soccer leagues are so far behind the men right now in terms of progress and revenue. This is just one reason why.
Absolutely. All valid points. Beautifully said, you guys. I love your opinions and takes on this, and hopefully it'll just help move forward with the cause. I literally could talk to you guys for hours. I hate that we have to wrap things up. So you just have to promise me you'll come back and join us again for another episode of From the Sidelines on Just a Bit Outside.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invite.
Any time for you, Michelle. Anytime.
The Seahawks head to Los Angeles this weekend to take on their division foes, the Rams. And if you follow the Rams at all, one of the best possible sources that you can look into is ESPN reporter Lindsey Thiry. Now, Lindsey is a Seattle native, a UW alum, and we caught up earlier this week.
Lindsey Thiry from ESPN joining us now, our Seattle native who's made it big in Los Angeles covering the Rams, her third season. First of all, thanks so much for taking the time to stop by Just a Bit Outside and chat with me.
Michelle, it is so good to see you. I mean, I know we go way back to the days of Rally Fries, and I'm just thrilled to now be like on your show, and you're a big host in Seattle, big anchor in Seattle. It's like, this is always awesome stuff.
Well, and it's so fun because I don't think people know, like, you and I were in the trenches together. We started out on this journey, gosh, over a decade ago. Not that I'm trying to date us, but yes, we both got our start as Mariners Rally Fry girls, and, RIP Rally Fries. Can you believe that we went from serving French fries at Safeco Field to now finally being able to do our dream jobs?
Isn't it amazing? Yeah, They said just take the first job that's offered to you after that internship serving French fries and don't look back. And I think we both have done that, which is pretty awesome that we're sitting here. And I'm sure maybe a few of our old producers at Fox Sports Northwest are like, all right, they did it.
Exactly. And it's been a crazy journey. You and I were talking a little bit before we started the record here. I mean, you got your start in Montana. I got my start in Idaho. For you personally, I mean, obviously now covering the Rams, and you've been covering the Rams for several years. You were with the LA Times before ESPN. Was it always clear cut for you? Like, football was kind of where you wanted to go, like NFL?
It really wasn't. In fact, I mean, I really got into this because I loved the Seattle Mariners, right? Like, I watched the Mariners as a little kid growing up, and I wanted to cover baseball, and I always went to the baseball games. I think the NFL just kind of became the natural course just by the way that my career went. After I was in Montana, I was hired by the Atlanta Falcons as their team reporter. So then I kind of really got introduced to the NFL there. When I made it out to LA, I covered a lot of college football. And then when the Rams came, again, it kind of turned into more NFL. So I don't know that this was the destination, but it's been an awesome stop along the way. And obviously it's a pretty good league to cover.
Yes. I mean, our division alone, I mean, it's like, I always watch the games and whatnot, and it's just like, no matter what, the NFC West is always such a factor to be reckoned with, or a force, I should say, a force to be reckoned with. Obviously, we've got the Rams and Seahawks this coming week, and it should be a great game this weekend.
Yeah, you know what? The Seahawks and the Rams have been great games the last several years. I mean, you really never know which way they're going to go. It's like the Seahawks always have crazy endings, but the Rams and Seahawks, when they play, always have wild finishes. I mean, last year, right, it came down to a field goal in Seattle, and I know, Rams fans always kind of point to that game being the one that's like the one that kind of turned the season in the direction that it went, with them missing the playoffs and whatnot. But regardless, I know Aaron Donald loves getting after Russell Wilson, and then we could watch that all day. So they're always fun matchups.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But now, you know, you and I are in this kind of weird world right now of COVID. I'm trying to do our jobs in COVID. I mean, everyone really is, but especially in sports broadcasting where things have changed so much. What has it been like adapting this year and trying to do your job, cover your team, but dealing with a pandemic as well?
Yeah, well, one, I'm really happy that I get to leave the house once in a while. So we go to the team facility a couple times a week, which is terrific. I get to watch the open portion of practice, kind of wave at guys and coaches, and then everything else is like via Zoom, like everybody else. The hardest part, obviously, of all that is just not being able to go to the locker room. I think maybe, like, I don't know if I took it for granted, but I didn't realize exactly how valuable it was to be able to just kind of check in with guys on a daily basis or on a weekly basis at least, get to know them, talk to them about things far beyond, you know, X's and O's, ask them how their families are, ask them what's new. Where now when you're kind of on a time limit with Zoom, it's a little bit of like, hey, like I'd love to chat and catch up, but really we just kind of have to get into what's going on the football field because that's all you have time for. So I really miss just kind of the relationship building aspect of this. I think that's why like we love our jobs, right? Is chatting and communicating with people, and Zoom is great for the situation, but not ideal.
Exactly. It's great that the fact that you're in Los Angeles right now and I'm in Seattle right now and we're able to connect this way. But I totally agree. It's like I get way too excited now when I see people pop up on Zoom calls. I'm like, oh, hello, I haven't seen you.
Yeah.
So I get it. Now, you're a diehard dog. You know, you went to the University of Washington. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, you were a national champion volleyball player, correct?
Yeah, I was on the team. I do like to very much preface that with, I definitely rode the bench. I was like a human serving machine in practice. So like people are like, oh my God, like, did you play? Like, were you a starter? I'm like, no, I was a bench rider. Like, we all have a role, right? So
you were still there. You were still there, and that is amazing. So do you still
have ring? Yeah.
Do you still follow your dogs a lot? Like, are you? I mean, obviously there was no college football this last weekend, unfortunately for the Huskies, but hopefully this week against Oregon State, are you still keep tabs on them?
I try and watch when I can. The one kind of benefit of the whole like not traveling thing this year is that Saturdays are open, right? Normally on a Saturday I'd miss the whole day of college football traveling for Sunday games, but luckily we don't have that. Well, I don't know if it's luckily, but the Huskies didn't even play last Saturday. But hopefully I will catch a few more games because I won't be traveling on Saturdays this year.
And what about volleyball? Do you still play?
On the beach sometimes. But I will say, moving to the sand, not so easy. And getting a little, I'm not old, but getting a little older, it makes it tough to kind of be in shape to the point where you can effectively play, but a little Saturday picnic style once in a while.
I love it. Girl, I feel you. I did my first leg workout the other day in months, and I literally could not get up and down my stairs the last 2 days.
Yeah, the gyms out here have been closed since March. So still trying to get out and get exercise, but things are getting a little dicey.
Oh my gosh, so true. And now you and I have always bonded over the fact that, we've been kind of the rare few women in the room, on so many different occasions of what we've done. And over the years, obviously not this year because we can't be in person, but over the years, even seeing you at CenturyLink Field and stuff, we're still some of the few women that are on the sidelines. How do you feel like this career path and industry, I guess, is changing and kind of diversifying? Have you seen progress, do you think, over the last couple of years?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? It really encourages me because I have so many young women who reach out and want tips and want advice. How do I get started? What do I need to do? And they have such open minds, right? It's not just, I want to be on camera and I want to be on camera now. There's a lot of young women who really are starting to see oh, I can start a podcast, or I can write, or I can be on the radio. And it's all kind of, because of the way the media is anymore, you kind of need to have all those skill sets. So I think it's been really cool that that's available, and that makes the industry, I think, a lot more accessible to anybody. You don't necessarily have to move to Montana or Wyoming or Idaho, and you can, and I still think that's an amazing path to take, but there's also other opportunities that you can use. I mean, just social media in itself, like as a platform to help more people be recognized and more people kind of put their work out there. So I think it's all heading in a really good direction, like maybe not as fast as anyone would like to see, but I know, like just us, like, right? Like we started as Rally Fry Girls and now we're on NFL sidelines seeing each other, and that's a really positive thing.
It totally is. And you hit the point there of like, there's so many different avenues. And I think the perfect like point of that is like what you were doing with ESPN, because you write, you're on camera, you know, I mean, you were with the LA Times before, like you've done so many different avenues. And I know with ESPN, I mean, you guys pop in you're on Sports Center one day and like, you know, you're all over the place. How important is it to have that versatility?
I think it's really important. And what's funny is, for several years, I was offered a job at the LA Times. Like they kind of recruited me, said, hey, we want you to do this digital thing for us, do these online videos, and we'll help you with your writing. Because I did not get into this to be a writer. I wanted to be on TV. And so that was really great that they helped me with that skill set while I brought the kind of video aspect to them. And because of that, like that opened the door to ESPN. If it weren't for the LA Times, I wouldn't be at ESPN. They frankly told me, like, we saw your writing increase, we saw your writing improve, and that's why we're calling you. And I think that's really important to emphasize. I mean, there's no one way to do this, and the more skill sets, the better. And I actually had a couple executives before that say to me, oh, like, well, what are you? Like, you've been on TV, you've written for the newspaper, like, we don't really know what you are. And I was like, well, I'm just someone who was willing to try everything. And that didn't quite do it for a few people, and that's totally fine. I just kind of kept going, and the right opportunity came along and embraced my wild resume that includes TV and the newspaper and all the above.
Well, and it's amazing. It's so fun watching you just kick butt and do such an amazing job. And every time I see, like, it's so fun when I click on the TV and then it's like, and here's Lindsey Thiry in Los Angeles with the Rams. I always get so excited.
Like my personal cheerleader. This is amazing.
It's so fun to watch what you've done. And obviously I love every time the Seahawks play the Rams because that means I get to see you. Lindsey, I love that we were able to catch up. I appreciate so much the insight, and I'm so glad you're doing so well in Los Angeles.
Thanks for having me, Michelle. And let's get some fries and maybe a glass of wine soon.
Aaron Levine joining me now. And Aaron, I know you know Lindsey as well as knowing just how challenging the sports field of broadcasting can be. But it's so great to see Lindsey doing such a wonderful job on the national stage.
Just shows that hard work pays off. I remember a story that Lindsey told me when she was in Montana that her first day of work was in the snow. It was around January 1st, and I think all the doors to the building were locked. And she goes, I'm in the middle of nowhere. What am I doing here? And she's a grinder, just like you are. You started in Idaho. She started in Montana, been willing to do anything and everything to be able to move up in the industry in terms of shooting her own footage and editing her own footage. I saw her on the sidelines of a Seahawks-Rams game a couple years ago with a little digital camera she was shooting for the LA Times. It's really great to see her get to where she is today because of all the hard work she has put in over the last few years.
Obviously, big fans of Lindsey's. If you're a Rams fan, definitely check her out. Even if you're not a Rams fan, you should still check her out because she does just fantastic work. And switching gears, it's time for Emerald City Extras, where we dig through the press conference sound to bring you little tidbits that didn't make our sportscast. Now, this first bite is from an interview that I recently did with Sounders' Jordan Morris. See, he is one of 25 either professional athletes, superstars, or notable figures to be a part of Seattle Children's latest money-raising initiative, which is trading cards. I've got a box right here. Jordan has won, as well as former Sonics, Hall of Famers, Grammy Award-winning artists. And Aaron, I asked him who he was most excited to be included in this pack with.
If I had to name one, I think Ken Griffey. I was such a big Mariners fan, and watching him play for the Mariners, it was just he was obviously such a special player and was a big idol of mine growing up. So to kind of be in the same pack as him, I honestly, I hadn't really thought about that until you just brought it up, but then his name was the first one to come to mind, and it's pretty cool.
It really is amazing when you're able to not only meet or be part of something with a childhood idol. Mine growing up, believe it or not, was Ickey Woods of the Cincinnati Bengals. I was an LA kid, but I really didn't like the Rams, didn't like the Raiders at the time. I liked the Bengals because of their uniforms. And a couple years ago at the Snoqualmie Ridge tournament that the Seahawks put on, the Rumble at the Ridge, none other than Ickey Woods happened to be there. So I understand how Jordan Morris feels in looking up to a childhood idol like Ken Griffey Jr. now being part of this with him.
Yes, because even when you've made it or you're the superstar, you still love your superstars. And I personally just love this project that Children's is doing. All proceeds go to Seattle Children's, and they have teamed up with Bartell Drugs, which is where you can buy these packs of cards now through the holidays. And one card in every package is actually autographed by one of the superstars we mentioned. Now, this next soundbite is from Russell Wilson. He's, I should say, in this package as well. But this was from a couple weeks ago. He was asked about the first time that he remembered being underestimated in his life, and it really turned into a really special story about his father.
I mean, you have the things that, you know, young kid, and you really young, people say you can't do something, but I think that more so probably when I was in, 8th, 9th grade, you kind of hear people say that, you're too small to do this, to that, and I think that, for me, I went to a private school, I went to collegiate school in Richmond, Virginia, so a lot of people didn't think, oh, well, that football may not be good enough for this or that. We played some good football. We beat a lot of the public schools and teams around us. So I think that was really the thing that I was kind of having an uphill battle on, because, I wasn't playing the public school system necessarily, but I was playing against them and we were winning. And so I think I heard that a lot, especially when I went to, visits and stuff like that. People thought, okay, he's going to play DB or something like that. I heard that a ton. I went to UVA football camp. They kind of told me that, looked at me like that. And I remember going to UNC and them, when I was older, actually, when I was like a junior or senior, they loved me at quarterback, but they had already signed a guy, Paulus, and I think they said to me, we can offer you as an athlete, but we can't offer you as a quarterback, that kind of thing. So those are just moments that I remember distinctly that, and my dad, I never forget, my dad told, Coach Signetti, who was actually the offensive coordinator, who's a great guy. I have a great relationship with Coach Frank Signetti, and Coach Bunting was the head coach at the time, and my dad said, hey, listen, just give him one chance. Give him 5 minutes to throw. That's all you need. And then Coach Signetti said, all right, we'll give him 5 minutes, And I'll never forget that, because I was in their office, and as I left the office, my dad kind of grabs me by my elbow and says, give him the best damn 5 minutes you ever given him. and so that I'll never forget that. And it was a good 5 minutes.
Russell Wilson is the perfect example of giving somebody a chance. It's a chip in a chair, right? You have that opportunity, you make the most of it. That's clearly what Russell Wilson's done his entire life, and he's proven so many doubters wrong along the way. It's really a fine example for anybody looking to get that opportunity somewhere. Just get that one chance and make the most of it.
Absolutely. He's such a role model in so many ways and so inspiring to so many young athletes out there. And personally, I love that soundbite, Aaron, because it's such an authentic moment from Russell of him just sharing that great memory. But that's a wrap on this week's Emerald City Extras. Who knows what we'll have next week? So you'll have to tune in next week to find that one out. But we'll move right along now because it's trivia time. Aaron still remains undefeated as our trivia master. Will that be the case after today? Let's find out with the help of Jessamine McIntyre. Here's On the Clock with Aaron Levine.
And it's now time for On the Clock, where a viewer has a chance to beat me in a trivia challenge. Today we've got Michael Vaught, who responded on Twitter at Seahawk Michael. I'm impressed that name was still available, by the way.
Yep. I don't know. I did it a few years ago and worked out for me.
I love the setup you've got there. Where do you live and what do you do?
I live in Everett, Washington, and I'm a tax accountant.
Awesome. Well, shout out to the North Sound today. Here's how this works. Each of us will have a minute to answer as many questions as possible. You have to beat me outright to win. A tie goes to the house, and you're playing for a $100 gift card to Daniel's Broiler. I also want to mention that these trivia questions are provided by our friends at Fame Trivia USA. Be sure to check them out at Fame Trivia USA on Facebook. They host trivia nights all over the area. I know they're also in the North Sound. You ever been to one of them?
I have not, no.
Okay. Well, hopefully you'll check it out sometime. They are a ton of fun. I'm going to have you go first. I'm going to take the earphones out. I'm also putting headphones on. I'm turning on some gym class heroes. I don't know if you can hear this.
I can hear it.
A little old school there, 2005, 2006. So Jessamine McIntyre's on the line. I'm going to have her take it away. Go ahead.
Yeah, Aaron's going back to Stanford right now. A little rollback machine. All right, Michael, you are officially on the clock.
Let's do it.
J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series, what is the name for a person who lacks any sort of magical ability and was not born in a magical family?
A muggle.
What was the famous title / name of the Pink Floyd album that spent an amazing 950 weeks total on the Billboard Top 200 album charts?
Pass.
Medicine. What was the first human organ to be successfully transplanted?
A heart.
Camellias was an animated rooster who for many years served as the mascot of which breakfast cereal?
Cornflakes.
Spanning 16 seasons, what successful TV show is based on the medical team at Seattle Grace Hospital?
Grey's Anatomy.
What country's capital city is Helsinki?
Norway.
To Wall Street investors in the finance world, what does IPO stand for?
Initial public offering.
Sweeney Todd, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Mars Attacks, all quirky films. This is your last question. All directed by which famous film director?
I can't remember right now.
By the way, did I say your name right, Michael?
No, it's Voight.
So I'm going to deduct 1 point. I'm starting at -1. I apologize for that. This is even after I practiced it before we started this too. So I'm starting at -1, Jess.
Okay, -1. Here we go. In J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series, what is the name for a person who lacks any sort of magical ability and was not born
Muggle.
What was the famous title or name of the Pink Floyd album that spent an amazing 950 weeks on the
Dark Side of the Moon.
What was the first human organ to be successfully transplanted?
The kidney.
Cornelius was an animated rooster who, for many, served years as a mascot of which breakfast cereal?
Cornflakes.
Spanning 16 seasons, what successful TV show is based on the medical team at Seattle Grace Hospital?
Grey's Anatomy.
What country's capital city is Helsinki?
Helsinki, that's Finland.
To Wall Street investors and in the finance world, what does IPO stand for?
Initial something offering. Pass.
Sweeney Todd, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Mars Attacks, all quirky films, all directed by which famous film director?
Tim Burton.
And that will do it.
Michael, thank you so much for playing. And tying, we still have a Q13 Fox coffee mug for you. But I really appreciate it, and I'm sorry that I got your name right. It's Michael Voight, and I believe that's at Seahawks Michael on Twitter, correct?
Correct, yep.
Well, I appreciate the time. A shout out to everybody up in Everett, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everything you do, Aaron. You're the best sportscaster in Seattle by far.
The 20 is in the mail. I appreciate that. Thanks so much, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Again, the answer is a muggle has no magical ability in Harry Potter books. The Pink Floyd album was called Dark Side of the Moon. The first human organ to be successfully transplanted was the kidney. Cornelius was the longtime mascot of Cornflakes. Grey's Anatomy was based at Seattle Grace Hospital. Helsinki is the capital of Finland. IPO stands for Initial Public Offering. And Tim Burton directed Sweeney Todd and the new Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. We remain undefeated, for now at least, Michelle.
Aaron, I seriously don't know how you do it. I don't know where you have all this knowledge and where you pull these answers from. I'm lucky if I get like 1 or 2, so I'm really glad you handled the trivia segment. Now, if you at home want to take on Aaron and be a part of On the Clock, just head over to Twitter and send a note to Aaron at AaronQ13Fox for your chance to join us on the show. And before we wrap things up on this week's Just a Bit Outside, let's take a look at the headlines we are tracking this week by checking in on the top storylines brought to you by WaFd Bank. Get free checking at a best bank, wafdbank.com. First, the Huskies will hopefully finally be on the field this Saturday in their season opener, taking on Oregon State after their actual opener, against Cal was canceled last weekend. Mariners' Kyle Lewis won Rookie of the Year honors, becoming just the 4th player in Mariners history to do so. And lastly, speaking of awards, both Jordan Morris and Nicholas Lodeiro of the Seattle Sounders have advanced to be among the final 5 finalists for the league's MVP award for the 2020 season. And on that note, let's bring back in Aaron now for his picks for the rest of the week and against all odds. Aaron?
Yeah, Michelle, I'm sticking with the beginner's luck defense right here. Someone out there is saying, hey, there's this guy up in Seattle who's actually making some decent picks against the spread. We were 4-1 last week, so let's kind of keep the momentum going this week. We started 3-0, by the way, with the Packers on Thursday Night Football, and then the underdogs on Saturday, Syracuse and Colorado, both covering at home. Our loss came with the Detroit Lions at Minnesota, and the Raiders barely hung on for a win over the Chargers. We are now 11-4 against the spread this season. So we now look to the week ahead. I'm going to go with the slight underdog on Thursday night, the Colts plus 1.5 at Tennessee. I've got a Friday night pick for you, taking Iowa minus 3.5 at Minnesota. I'm taking Penn State laying 3.5 points at Nebraska. And then on Sunday, I'm taking the Seahawks, 1.5 underdogs. Remember, Russell Wilson, 32-8 after an in-season loss. And give me the Chargers, getting 2.5 points at Miami. Always love the Chargers as an underdog, but never as a favorite. The saying goes, ride the hot streak until it's completely over, and that might be over very soon, especially if I start putting my own money on the line. Michelle?
I like that you're betting not money, because then you're keeping them coming. There's no pressure. I dig it, especially that you're picking the Seahawks to win this weekend. Well, that's it for another episode of Just a Bit Outside. We're a month in on our new show, and we would love your feedback. Do you have a favorite segment or anyone you want to see weigh in from the sidelines? You can always find me on Twitter at Michelle Ludtka. A big thank you for joining Just a Bit Outside this week, presented by WaFd Bank. Join a best bank. And a huge thanks to Lindsey Thiry, Susannah Collins, and Strawberry for joining the show. For Aaron Levine and our entire production crew, I'm Michelle Ludtka. We'll see you same spot, same time next week.